The generations of Noah, or Table of Nations, is a traditional ethnology representing the expansion of humankind from the descendants of Noah in their dispersion into many lands after the flood. The term nations to describe the descendants is a standard English translation of the Hebrew word goy, following the c. 400 CE Latin Vulgate's nationis, nationibus, and does not have the same political connotations that the word entails today. The list of 70 names introduces for the first time a number of well-known ethnonyms and toponyms important to biblical geography, such as Noah's 3 sons Shem, Ham and Japheth, from which is derived Semitic, Hamitic and Japhethic. Certain of Noah's grandsons including Elam, Ashur, Aram, Cush, and Canaan, from which Elamites, Assyrians, Arameans, Cushites and Canaanites, as well as further descendants including Eber, the hunter king Nimrod, the Philistines and the sons of Canaan including Heth, Jebus and Amorus, from which Hittites, Jebusites and Amorites. As Christianity took over the Roman world, it adopted the idea that all the world's peoples were descended from Noah, but the tradition of Hellenistic Jewish identifications of the ancestry of various peoples, which concentrates very much on the Mediterranean world and the Near East and is described below, became stretched. Northern peoples important to the late Roman and medieval world, such as the Celts, Slavs, Germans and Norse, were not covered, nor were others of the world's peoples. A variety of fanciful arrangements were devised by scholars, with for example the Scythians, who do feature in the tradition, being claimed as the ancestors of much of northern Europe. According to Joseph Blenkinsop, the 70 names in the list express symbolically the unity of the human race, corresponding to the 70 descendants of Israel who go down into Egypt with Jacob at Genesis chapter 46 verse 27, and the 70 elders of Israel who visit God with Moses at the covenant ceremony in Exodus chapter 24 verses 1 to 9. Table of Nations. Book of Genesis chapters 1 to 11 of the Book of Genesis are structured around 5 Toledot statements, of which the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, is the fourth. Events before Noah's flood, the central Toledot, correspond to those after. The post-flood world is a new creation corresponding to the Genesis creation narrative, and like Adam, Noah has 3 sons who will populate the world. The correspondences extend forward as well. There are 70 names in the table, corresponding to the 70 Israelites who go down into Egypt at the end of Genesis and to the 70 elders of Israel who go up the mountain with Sinai to meet with God in Exodus. The symbolic force of these numbers is underscored by the way the names are frequently arranged in groups of 7. Suggesting that the table is a symbolic means of implying universal moral obligation. The overall structure of the table is 1. Introductory formula v. 1. 2. Japheth vv. 2 to 5. 3. Ham vv. 6 to 20. 4. Shem 21 to 31. 5. Concluding formula v. 32. The overall principle governing the assignment of various peoples within the table is difficult to discern. It purports to describe all humankind, but restricts itself to the Egyptian lands of the south, the Mesopotamian lands, and Asia Minor and the Ionian Greeks, and the sons of Noah are not organized by geography, language or ethnic groups within these regions. The table is in fact filled with difficulties. For example, the names Sheba and Havilah are listed twice, first as descendants of Cush the son of Ham, and then as sons of Jotan, the great-grandsons of Shem, and while the Cushites are African in verses 6 to 7, they are Mesopotamians in verses 10 to 14. The date of composition of Genesis chapters 1 to 11 cannot be fixed with any precision, although it seems likely that an early brief nucleus was later expanded with extra data. Portions of the table itself may derive from the 10th century, while others reflect the 7th century and priestly revisions in the 5th century. Its combination of world review, myth and genealogy corresponds to the work of the Greek historian Hecataeus of Miletus, active c. 520 BCE. Book of Chronicles. I Chronicles chapter 1 includes a version of the Table of Nations from Genesis, but edited to make clearer that the intention is to establish the background for Israel. This is done by condensing various branches to focus on the story of Abraham and his offspring. Most notably, it omits Genesis chapter 10 verses 9 to 14, in which Nimrod, a son of Cush, is linked to various cities in Mesopotamia, thus removing from Cush any Mesopotamian connection. Book of Jubilees. The Table of Nations is expanded upon in detail in chapters 8 to 9 of the Book of Jubilees, sometimes known as the Lesser Genesis, a work from the early Second Temple period. Jubilees is considered pseudepigraphical by most Christian and Jewish sects but thought to have been held in regard by many of the Church Fathers. Its division of the descendants throughout the world are thought to have been heavily influenced by the Ionian world map described in the histories, and the anomalous treatment of Canaan and Madai are thought to have been propaganda for the territorial expansion of the Hasmonean state. Septuagint version. The Hebrew Bible was translated into Greek in Alexandria at the request of Ptolemy II, who reigned over Egypt 285–246 BCE. Its version of the Table of Nations is substantially the same as that in the Hebrew text, but with the following differences. It lists Eliezer as an extra son of Japheth, giving him 8 instead of 7, while continuing to list him also as a son of Javan, as in the Masoretic text, whereas the Hebrew text lists Shelah as the son of Arpachshad in the line of Shem. The Septuagint has Acainan as the son of Arpachshad and father of Shelah. The Book of Jubilees gives considerable scope to this figure. Canaan appears again at the end of the list of the sons of Shem. Obal, Joktan's 8th son in the Masoretic text, does not appear. Sons of Noah: Shem, Ham and Japheth. The flood story tells how Noah and his 3 sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with their wives, were saved from the deluge to repopulate the earth. Shem's name means name, or fame. Through Eber he became the ancestor of Abraham and thus of the Israelites. In the view of some 17th-century European scholars, the people of China and India descended from Shem. Both Webb and the French Jesuits belonging to the Figurist school went even further, identifying the legendary Emperor Yao of Chinese history with Noah himself. Ham is the forefather of Cush, Egypt, and Put, and of Canaan, whose lands include portions of Africa, Arabia, Syria, Palestine and Mesopotamia. The etymology of his name is uncertain. Some scholars have linked it to terms connected with divinity, but a divine or semi-divine status for Ham is unlikely. Japheth is apparently the youngest son, although his line is given first. His name is associated with the mythological Greek titan Iapetos, and his sons include Javan, the Greek-speaking cities of Ionia. In Genesis chapter 9 verse 27 it forms a pun with the Hebrew root ypt. May God make room, the hipul of the yph root, for Japheth, that he may live in Shem's tents and Canaan may be his slave.